Hi, welcome back to another episode of Rock and Roll with Arizona Bike Week. I'm Lisa Sear, and I have a very special guest today, Ron Arieli, who is the owner of Team Arizona Motorcycle Training School. And anybody who lives here locally in Arizona is very familiar with Team Arizona, probably has taken a course or two, because it's not just for beginners.
Correct. Yeah. Thank you, first of all, for having me. Yeah, this is our 31st year providing motorcycle rider training to the citizens of Arizona. And interestingly, we were at the first bike week in Avondale decades ago. And that was the first time we got to, and thank you for continuing to carry the torch. Yeah, I just recalled that. That was a long time ago.
That's great.
That's how long we've all been kind of doing this. So yes, we offer courses all the way from entry level, meaning you've never been on a motorcycle before and you want to see what it's about. So there's intro courses, there's courses to get your license. There are higher level courses for riders that are already out there on the road, because this riding a motorcycle we look at it as a sport. It carries a perishable skill with it. You want to be ready for anything that may come your way on the street. Be relaxed, be ready to implement accident avoidance procedures. But if you don't practice these skills, even whether it's basic cornering skills and throttle control and braking, these skills will perish over time, just like any athlete. The amount of people here that golf and play tennis, look at all the money they invest in lessons to get better, to have more enjoyment, to get better at their craft. Riding a motorcycle really is no different.
Absolutely. So a brand new beginner, not ready to invest in a motorcycle yet, but wants to see if they like it. Do you have a course they can take where you provide them?
Absolutely.
With the ride?
Well, firstly, we offer intro. So there's an intro course, which is exactly what you're speaking. It's a few hours. It's on our motorcycles. We provide motorcycles, helmets, and gloves, not only for the intro course, but also for our license waiver course, the basic rider course. So we provide motorcycles, helmets, and gloves. The intro course is basically the first couple of exercises in the basic course, but they're stretched out to almost triple the time of each exercise. Very building block, let's first identify the clutch. Let's see how it works. Let's walk the bikes across the range. It's very slow paced, just to see if you want to ride a motorcycle in general. You could akin it to intro to scuba diving, which you don't do in the ocean. You do it in a swimming pool at a resort. It's that kind of idea.
That makes sense, absolutely. And then you've got the more advanced courses that you recommend even the most seasoned rider to take once in a while, just to keep honing those skills.
Absolutely. After the intro course, also, we have the basic rider course, which is essentially the bread and butter. We're licensed by MVD to provide this course. We provide bikes, helmets, gloves. It's 2 days. We have other formats, but for the most part, it's a 2-day course. And once you successfully complete that course, you will not have to take the state driving or written test. And you will also get, so they'll give you an M endorsement, or actually now it's an L endorsement on your motorcycle license. And you'll also benefit from insurance discount by almost all the major insurers. And you're probably going to make that back in the first year. After that, we have Confident Rider course and Advanced Rider course. Those two courses are the ones that you start doing that on your motorcycle. The Confident Riders course is essentially some of the exercises from the basic rider course and some other exercises mixed in. It's about a half day. It's pretty much all riding. And what it does is it takes those basic techniques that you may have done on a smaller bike or may have done on one of our training bikes and applies that to your motorcycle, because ultimately you need to know what your motorcycle will give you per se as feedback. When you practice emergency braking, what's that going to feel like? What's it feel like to swerve your motorcycle? What's that feel like to turn at different radiuses and angles? What's the throttle feel like? You want to figure all that stuff out before you really get out in the road in earnest. So once you've taken a basic rider course, or if you're very new and already have your license, you can come back for the Confident Riders course with your motorcycle. and you can take that course. And then the next level is the ART, and that's the Advanced Rider Training. That's a full day. That's more advanced riding techniques. We're going to talk to you about body position, how that affects cornering, throttle, proper throttle application, braking applications. The speeds are going to come up a little bit. You're going to learn a lot about your motorcycle in a very controlled and risk-reduced environment. And I guarantee existing riders always come out of our courses, even if they begrudgingly have been dragged there by their significant other. They've come out of there going, oh my gosh, I wish I did this years ago. Oh my gosh, I learned this, I learned that. I've been doing this incorrectly for years, and thank God nothing negative came out of it. And it will enlighten all riders, and you will get better at it, absolutely, which will give you more enjoyment for riding. Because if you're more relaxed, you can enjoy the ride. That's why we're doing this, so we can enjoy the outdoors. That wind therapy. You want to be relaxed to accept therapy. You need to know what you're doing and to be practiced.
Yeah, I have friends who have been riding for 50 or more years who still go back and take refresher courses. They said, I'm not too proud to say I can always use a tune-up, right? And
you're going to, what's also going to happen is you're going to find other people to ride with. You're going to you're going to strike up friendships. You're going to meet people. And what's really cool is now when you go out riding with those people, you're all on the same page. You all kind of know that in this instance, more than likely, this is what this person's going to do. The ride is going to be more enjoyable because you're going to be comfortable with the people around you.
And you have courses all over the valley, right?
All over the state, all over the valley, all over the
state.
Yep.
So they can just look at your website, which is?
motorcycletraining.com. So you can go to motorcycletraining.com. We have real-time online registration, so you'll know up to that second how many people are in that class and if there's openings. And also we have a partner company called Dirt Bike Training, DBT. So it's dirtbiketraining.com. It's our sister, in a sense, company. It does exactly what we do on the street, but in the dirt. And it also does it at an urban dirt training location, at our Gilbert location. And the reason I bring this up is even if you're not necessarily interested in dirt biking, and if you are, we start at ages 6 all the way up through adults. But if you've ever had an interest in dirt biking, you should definitely take this. But even if you're just interested to see what it feels like, we have a similar intro type course in the dirt. And the reason I'm bringing this up is when you start riding in a loose setting where the terrain is a little loose, and this is in a controlled environment, we're not taking you deep in the desert or anything like that, you'll get a lot more comfortable on your street bike, because when that bike moves a little bit, you won't tense up because you'll know why it's doing that and how to apply your controls to get out of those situations. So it's a great compliment to street riders just to see if they're interested in something like that, and it'll help them in their street riding. But back to the dirt side, to the street side, the courses that we offer, we do this year-round. This is all we do, 365 days a year. So we're pretty good at what we do.
Yeah, you are very good at what you do. Could you maybe kind of throw out a few general safety tips for everyday riding that you want to make sure that every rider is aware of?
Well, yeah. A couple of things. First, not to beat the dead horse, but definitely take a class, because then you'll have something that you have been professionally taught how to practice. So you take the class, and a lot of people take the class, but then they don't ongoingly practice what they've learned. And that's one of the major reasons that people aren't prepared in accident avoidance situations. And now I'm not saying that all accidents are avoidable. That would be foolish and an untrue statement. But if you are honing your skills, and some of those skills, they're not just physical, they're mental and they're visual. So once you learn something, go out there and practice it. Before you go on a ride, go do a T-clock inspection, which is a full inspection of all the components of your motorcycle. Make sure that everything is aired up and the controls are working. And if not that morning, if you're leaving early with a group to ride, but that late afternoon prior, take your bike out, practice, go into a parking lot or in your cul-de-sac, do a few U-turns, do a few weaves, apply your brakes, utilize that motorcycle. As we say, throw it around a little bit, get comfortable with it. Not only that, but in your spare time, and I know there's not a lot of spare time these days for people, but keep practicing what you learn, because as I said at the opening, your skills will erode. I'm now 67, and I know that personally, if I don't go out there and practice, and if I don't go out there and I'm on a motorcycle frequently, I can feel that I'm getting a little rusty. I have some, points where I can kind of coach and judge myself to a certain extent, but all our staff, we go take courses with other people, with other organizations. We take track courses, we take high performance courses. We do that so we can not just elevate our skill, and we really like to do it because we feel the fulfillment from it, but it makes us better riders. Assume people don't see you. The best advice I can give to people is when you leave the house, you have your invisible cloak on and nobody can see you. So it's up to you to stay visible. It's up to you to maintain space cushioning, to make the right decisions, have an escape plan. One of the things we teach, is when you're doing swerving, well, I'm swerving to avoid the obstacle, but where am I going to end up? And that will depend on what kind of roadway, what the situation is. So all these scenarios can be, in a sense, practiced, at least so people know what it feels like when it happens unexpectedly. You want to watch for intersections. On the T-clock inspection, to get back to it, you want to check your tires and wheels, your controls, your lights, your oil and fuel, your even things as simple as make sure your side stand and works, so when you pull it down, it supports the bike. I mean, there's a ton of stuff to it, and people, I think, lose track of there's a lot more to it than just hopping on a bike, pushing the starter button, and off we go.
Yeah, or maybe they'll do that when they're heading out on a long trip, but not just for day-to-day
Exactly.
riding. And sometimes, you need to do a little walk around.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Especially like in Arizona, something as minor as tire pressure. Sometimes, depending on the weather, with the extreme differences in temperatures that we get, tires will bleed out air. You want to keep that in mind, because unlike in a car, we only have two tires to rely on.
Yeah.
So if one of them isn't working properly, things can get sketchy really quickly.
Yeah. And then for longer trips, I mean, obviously you want to do all of that and more to make sure, first of all, that your bike is ready for the trip, and to make sure you're prepared for the trip. Can you maybe give us some things to think about?
So the number one thing we see, or I see personally, and others have brought to my attention, when people pack, they don't take into account the weight distribution of what they're packing on the motorcycle. Now, if you're riding one-up and you're taking a long trip, or in any case, you want your bike, the stuff the heavy things on your motorcycle as low and as forward as possible. Because if you think about it, if you overload your tail box or your tail pack, and now you have a passenger on it, well, what's that doing to the motorcycle? Well, it's lightening the front end. Now, if you haven't made a suspension adjustments, if one side of your saddlebag weighs 4 or 5 pounds more than the other, if you haven't evened out that weight, all those things are going to result in a change of handling, and not necessarily a good change in handling. If you go into a corner and the back of your bike is so weighted down that the front tire is light and there's anything there impeding your traction, that's going to amplify the situation of there's not enough load on your front tire, and your front tire could slide out. Whereas if it was properly balanced, meaning the weight of the motorcycle and everything was balanced the way it's supposed to be, that may not happen. If you're going into a corner, there's too much on one saddlebag and the other, that's going to affect your handling. So you always want to properly load your... When I go, I have a couple of motorcycles, and one of them has 2 hard cases and a top box. And I load those 2 top cases, and I literally will stand on a scale with it in one hand, and the other hand when I'm going away for a few weeks, and I'll try to even it out as much as possible. Now, of course, it might not be exactly to the ounce, but I can tell you that the differences can really affect the way the bike handles.
Sure.
Make sure you have waterproof luggage. Make sure, like when people often, I've been guilty of this, of packing too much. Well, now They have vacuum bags. Roll up your stuff. Put them in vacuum bags. They have all this really cool high-tech, lightweight clothing. So I take these high-tech, lightweight pants that kind of look like dress pants, and they roll up to something about the size of my phone. So I can take a couple of pairs. There's a bunch of stuff. Avoid bungee cords. Please avoid bungee cords. Rock straps, and I'm not here to plug a company, but use something similar to rock straps that won't give out, that won't dry out. Bungee cords are an emergency situation, but make sure everything is secured properly and it doesn't shift. So those are just a few things. Watch the weather, obviously the common sense stuff. Make sure you have layers of gear. Make sure you have waterproof stuff, that type of things, because weather changes very quickly in our area of the country.
For sure, yeah.
Those are just some basics.
That's super helpful. I was wondering if you could review for our viewers the lane filtering laws in Arizona and how it differs from lane splitting.
Yes. Okay. Good. I'm glad you asked that. We get asked that constantly. The basics is lane filtering allows motorcycles to pass stopped cars in certain conditions to filter towards the front of the queue or the stoplight or the intersection. And it's proven that system reduces motorcyclists being rear-ended when they're at a stop, because a lot of times, as we've been seeing, people are holding on to those electronic devices in their hands, especially when they're coming to a stop, because I've already slowed down, nothing to worry about, and they're not paying attention. So essentially, traffic must be stopped. So all cars must be completely stopped. You must have 2 or more lanes traveling in the same direction. So it has to be a 2-lane road in the same direction. Traffic must be completely stopped at a red light or a stop sign. It's good for surface streets only, not for freeways. The speed limit, the roadway speed limit, must be 45 miles per hour or less. So 45 mile per hour per S posted. Traffic has to be a complete stop. There needs to be 2 rows of cars going in the same direction. The motorcyclists can travel in between those cars at under 15 miles per hour. So it's under 15 miles per hour. And it's good for 2-wheel motorcycles only. So the difference between that and lane splitting is what they do in California and a couple other states. We'll use California because we're probably most commonly familiar for us. And you can split in between moving traffic. You cannot split between moving traffic on a motorcycle in Arizona on any road surface. That is illegal. Also, it's very dangerous because unlike in California, a lot of the road users here are not only from different states, as we have a lot of snowbirds. Obviously, you see the influx of tons of out-of-state plates. Not only are they from different states, which may or may not have lane filtering or lane splitting, but they're not ready to see a motorcycle come up in between 2 cars. And a lot of times, people are not in the greatest mood, and they will impede the progress of the motorcycle, which is incredibly dangerous, incredibly stupid to do, but yet it happens, and unfortunately, I've seen it happen. So make sure when you're filtering in Arizona, you're in a 2-lane road going in the same direction, that all the traffic is completely stopped, and then you can filter in between the cars at below 15 miles per hour. Be courteous, thank them, give them a nod. That would be the best way to get the information out, because as I said, a lot of the motorists do not know that is legal to do.
Yeah, a little nod goes a long way. You're right.
Yeah, absolutely. Nod, thumbs up, thank you.
And even if you're following all of those rules, you still have to be very cautious, because just because somebody's at a dead stop doesn't mean they're not going to jump over into the shorter lane of traffic. So you still have to keep an eye out for the unpredictable things that people can do.
Absolutely. Just like when I'm riding in California, when I lane split in California, I'm not only looking at the side view mirror of the car to try to get a glimpse of maybe where the head is if it's not totally tinted out, but I'm certainly looking at the tires as well. to see which direction, if there's any movement. You got to be super alert. You have to have your, my kids said when they were younger, their spidey senses. You need to be super alert. You need to be, when you're riding a motorcycle in general, look out for all these little cues. Try to use someone's mirror. See if you can see if they're looking. Look through the rear window. See if they're on the phone. Basically, outfit yourself with as much information visually and mentally as you can so you can make the proper decision. And then what happens then? Can you do what you're supposed to do at that time on your motorcycle? And the only way you're going to know that is if God forbid you have to implement accident avoidance procedures and you've done it before, or come take a course, see what it feels like. If you're comfortable, you'll be able to immediately implement hand controls. And you won't go, oh my God, the bike's swerving. You will have done this over and over, and you'll be totally confident, and you'll be able to throw that bike around to avoid the car that's locked up in front of you or the back of the truck or whatever. So practice, practice, practice.
Absolutely. And we intentionally nestle Arizona Bike Week in what we think is a sweet spot right between when spring training is over. Hopefully a lot of our seasonal visitors have left town and gone back home, and before it gets too hot. That's why we do it when we do it. We want as many of those people that are unfamiliar with the roads in their four wheels, back home. And before we bring in all these riders coming in from out of town and fill up the freeways and roadways with motorcycles. So we want everybody to be safe. That's very important to us. That's why we've had such a long partnership since the beginning.
Since the beginning.
You guys are always the ones I call on when I need somebody to talk about motorcycle safety, and I really appreciate everything you do and what you do for the riding community. You're such an important aspect to it, and I'm not aware of any other training school like yours. I think it's pretty unique what you do.
There's a few smaller operations around the state, very small.
Yeah.
We do probably about 80% of the training. We've been doing this longer than anybody, and there is something to experience in a field. We've honed our craft. I have an amazing staff. Our coaches are so passionate about what they do. They could be doing other things on the weekends. They choose to do this because they love giving back to the motorcycling community, as I do. This is my, blood, sweat, and tears for 31 years. I think we just eclipsed 170,000 riders that we trained since we started this. So I don't know, and arguably, I don't think there's an organization in the state that's done more to promote motorcycle rider safety and to actively teach people how to not only be safe on the motorcycle, but as I said earlier, derive more enjoyment. If you are more relaxed on your bike, if your brain is working in the right way, if you're disseminating the visual input, the visual information, you're using your eyes, you're staying calm because you've experienced what maneuvers are like and what higher speed cornering and all these different things are. If you've experienced this, then when you're out on the road, you'll be able to be in your sweet spot of, I got this, I can control my motorcycle, I know what to do if XYZ happens, I've done it before, and you know what? I'm so chill and relaxed and aware of what's happening. I'm having so much more fun on my motorcycle. I'm enjoying it even more. I guarantee you that if you come and take a course with us, that you will benefit in a variety of ways when you're done. You'll come out of there going, wow, okay, this was worth my time.
Absolutely. And any of you out there who've been riding for years without an endorsement, take the time to ride legally. Promise you will learn something you didn't know, and you won't feel like it was a waste of time, and you'll be riding legally and hopefully keep you out of trouble.
We can't control the trouble part, but we can help you ride legally and more safe.
Is there anything else that I have missed that you'd like to talk about?
I think that's really been pretty thorough. I don't want to, I don't want to beat the dead horse, but if you compare motorcycling in America to motorcycling in overseas or in Europe or in Asia, we have the most minimalist training requirements pretty much on the planet. We don't have displacement restrictions like they do in Europe. They have countless hours of training. You have to start on a smaller bike and work up to a bigger bike. There's reasons for this. There's also reasons that they have exponentially less accidents over there, especially fatalities, than we do. So the training component, all people, training, I know how to ride. Look at it, how can I have more fun on my bike? Forget about training, forget about education, and those words, I've been in school, I'm tired of learning. Come out, have some fun with us. Yes, you're gonna pay for it, it's not free, but I guarantee you're gonna learn more than anything that someone can give you for free on their spare time in a parking lot in a weekend. You're gonna be attended to by trained professionals. We know what to look for, we know how to help you, and we wanna have fun doing what we do. So everybody's gonna come out there and have a fun experience. You're gonna meet other people in the same boat. There's no peer pressure, there's no expectation, no one's going to be embarrassed by if you do something incorrect or correct. That doesn't exist in our world. So feel comfortable. We're a family-run organization. We want all of you to be a part of the motorcycling family, and we hope to provide this service for decades and decades to come.
Great. And could you give us your website one more time, please?
Website is motorcycletraining.com. And if you're interested in the dirt, it's dirtbiketraining.com. So Dirt and Street will help you out.
Great.
Appreciate
Well,
it.
thank you for keeping the riding community safe. We love our riding community and we want them to be safe. So you are such an important aspect of it. So we appreciate you being here today. Thank you, Ron.
Thank you very much, Lisa. Appreciate the invite and love it that this keeps on going for forever, hopefully.
All right. And thank you all for tuning in. Safe travels.